Judge Callaway, we appreciate you being here. One of the questions we ask is, can you operate under the mayor's proposed budget? And after that question, if you have any open remarks, you may do so. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. As to the first question, we can operate under the mayor's budget that was suggested. I would like to, of course, thank this body for all the support that you have given to juvenile court over the years, especially now as a new public official. The support that you all have given me, I also want to thank you for that as well. I have to give a special thanks to Rich Riebling in his absence in his office for all that they have done. A big shout out to Ms. Talia Lomax O'Neill. I have rung her phone off, sent her tons and tons of email, and she's always been very responsive. And I thank you, Talia, for all your work. Also like to say a special thank you to you, Councilman Pridemore, for just the support, and the Budget and Finance Committee for all they've done. And we as the Juvenile Court have an opportunity to work with very great partners, especially with David Smith, the Juvenile Court Clerk, with Department of Children's Services, with Child Support Services, the Public Defender, the District Attorney's Office, and all of them have been very supportive with this administration and helping out with all the things that we've done. And I'd like to say a special thank you to all of our partners. And I cannot go without saying thank you to the Juvenile Court staff. The Juvenile Court staff has been through 3 different judges in the last 3 years. And that's a lot to ask for a staff. And they've done it. They've done it with ease. They've been very cooperative. They've been very helpful. And they really have worked well through the transition. I have asked them to do a lot and to step up and to make a lot of changes. And they have done it just very willingly. And I have to say thank you to them. I will say, let me start, Council Pridman, just as the opening. Since I have started office in September, we have done a lot of restructuring. First, I have restructured the way the administration looks. We now have only 1 court administrator when it used to be 2. Our new court administrator is Ms. Kathy Sinbach. She is here. We grabbed her from, if you want to stand, Kathy, we grabbed her from Metro Legal, and she is doing an outstanding job. Her role is to make sure that the organization of the court is following all of the programs, all the plans of the court are following under the vision and the things that we're supposed to do. Her direct reports would be the 2 deputy court administrators, Mr. Jim Swack, who's our deputy for budgets and grants, and then Mr. Tommy Bradley, who is our deputy court administrator for personnel. And each of them works within the structure of the different avenues that they are assigned to. I also want to take a moment to introduce Ms. Margaret Doors, who serves as our finance officer, and she's done a wonderful job in helping with this process and making sure that we are presenting a great budget. And I want to thank that staff. They really have held up my arms and supported me throughout all of the transitions. One of the things that I want to talk to you all about, just to tell you about the things that we're doing in juvenile court, is that we have done a lot of restructuring. What we are doing is making sure that juvenile court operates under best practices that help to prevent problems with our youth that come into the system, that help to promote the positive potential of all of our clients, and it also pursue the fairness in the juvenile justice system. And we've done a lot of investment in time and a lot of work to make sure that what we are doing now with our families and our children help to save this community money on the back end. So we know that if we provide good, strong services for our youth and our family that help to prevent problems from happening, then we can save you all money so that we don't have to do it on the back end if they were to have to go into criminal court. And so that is one of our main goals. By doing that, what we have done is to restructure the way that we handle our business in juvenile court. We have a brand new intake division. At every case that comes in, they initiate the petitions. They send it to our assessment team, which is also a brand new team that was made of a lot of former probation officers. What the assessment team is for every child in every case that comes in that does not follow under the child support grant, that they are going out into the community within the first 30 days that that case comes into our court system and doing a full assessment of that child and that family. They're assessing the needs of the child and the family, and they're assessing all of the assets that that child and that family have. And so by going out into the community, talking to the family, talking to their teachers, talking to their pastors, talking to anybody that's related to that family, then we have a better picture of what's going on with that family, and we have a better ability to make sure that we are lining up the correct resources. And because what we need to do, we need to make sure that our resources are intact. We have a new STAR team, which stands for Statistics, Training, Analysis, and Resources. And so that team is the team that is supposed to make sure that all of the agencies that we're partnering with are agencies that do what they say they're going to do. And they're not just taking our children and taking our children's money to have them watch pizza party or have pizza parties and watch movies, but they're actually giving them the tools and the things that they need in the programs that we send them to so that they can be rehabilitated and treated. We also have what our probation team used to be. They are now our Support, Intervention, and Accountability Team, our SIA. And what they are doing is they are making sure that every family has the support that they need, that any intervention that needs are necessary, that are there, and that we're holding the child and the family accountable for any of the actions that they're doing. It's an effort to make sure that we are addressing exactly what it is that the team needs. We have a new youth court team and a community team. They are responsible for our relations with the Metro School Department and making sure that where we have youth court, that the students are trained well, that we have attorneys that are supervising, and that they're hearing the cases and making sure that we are following up on them. We also have, we are restructuring our Metro Student Attendance Center. What we are doing, we decided to make sure that that had stronger leadership and to make sure that each of those cases that go through our Metro Student Attendance Center, which are devoted to our truancy and our learning during school hour cases, that there is one magistrate that is over all of those cases. We are adding that position within the budget that we already have. We were able to find the money to add that position for a magistrate. What it brings to the Metro Student Attendance Center, it brings consistency. It brings someone who has a law degree and can actually hear the cases. It helps them to know exactly who's going through the system and what the needs are for that particular category of cases. And so we know that that's going to make our Metro Student Attendance Center stronger, and we also are hoping that with the collaboration with the clerk's office that we'll be able to staff it fully and that we'll be able to have more community court cases in the evening, and that we'll be able to do more in the community with that unit. I want to say one of the things that we've also been doing is we've been working hard with our human resource department with Veronica and Patrick and the rest of their staff, along with Talia and her staff, to reorganize and make sure all of our employees are classified the way that they should be and that they're doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. We've been doing a lot. Our goals are to make sure that we are reducing the number of youth that are coming to juvenile court and strengthening our partnerships that we're working with. We also, because we're doing a lot of restructuring, we want to make sure that our staff is properly trained on the best evidence and stuff that's going around the nation on how we should be treating our youth and our families. We have, we're making sure that we are following the purpose of the juvenile court statute, which follows under 37-1-101, that basically says that we've got to prevent problems, we got to do more intervention, we have to treat and rehabilitate all of the children that come through our system. One of the strategic issues that we are working with is we have a lot of non-English speaking participants that come through juvenile court. We are lacking a little on our interpreter services, and we want to make sure that we're building up on that. We definitely are very grateful to the mayor and the mayor's office and the budget that they have given us, and we definitely can work within that budget. We would love to ask for a few separate requests on top of the mayor's budget. We would ask for 4 different things. One of them would be extra money that we can place into our mileage reimbursement fund. Because we are increasing the number of our employees that will be out in the field with the assessment team along with the SIA team, they are required to go out and to meet with the families and to meet with the providers that work with them. Our mileage reimbursement has always been underfunded, and we would like to bring that back up to funding needs. Secondly, we are working with the administrative office of the court and trying to hire a separate individual that would provide interpretation services for the court. With the AOC, they will provide 80% of the funding, and we would have to match the 20%. And so we are asking for an additional fund to help to match that amount of money for our interpreter services. We also do a lot of drug screening with some of the youth. We have a youth teen drug court that they are required to do a lot of drug tests to make sure that they are staying clean and sober while they work through the program. And we are spending a nice amount of money with the drug cost, and so we would ask for an additional amount of money to help fund that as well. And in our pipe dream world, we have not had a victim witness coordinator that works with the victims of crimes that come through juvenile court. The district attorney's office does help us with more of the serious cases, the ones that look to be transferred to the adult system. They do offer victims witness services on those cases, but there are 90% of those cases do not go to criminal court, and we don't have anybody that works with the victims that come through there, and it requires some of our probation officers to serve a dual role of talking both to the victims as well as talking to working with our children to make sure that they're being rehabilitated and treated. And it's a difficult ask for our probation team to do that. And if we had one additional person for that role, that would help us out. With that, we again thank you all for all the support that you have given us in juvenile court, and thank you just for everything that you all do for our city. This is a good job, a long, hard job, and I know I've been to several of your meetings and know that you all work and put in a lot of work, and we thank you. I want to give a special shout out to my Councilman Hager, who will be my councilman for another 4 years. Thank you, and I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you, Judge Callaway. We'll open up the floor to council members. Councilman Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judge, I don't know that I heard an amount for your request.
I apologize. For the mileage reimbursement, our request would be an additional $20,000. For the match for the interpreter services, it would be a $10,000. For the increase in the drug screen, that would be additional $10,000. And then for the position for the victim witness coordinator, that would be $54,600. That would include the salary and the fringe benefits.
And I don't know if you have it with you, and you don't necessarily need to do it at this moment. Well, let me preface that by saying, since I think I have consistently added things to the wish list over my 8 years for juvenile court, I would add the total amount, but it would be very helpful to us because clearly in this budget year, everyone is not going to get what they want. If you have a prioritization of those items, would you send those to our chair so that we could see how that would break down if indeed we find some monies that Grinch in the finance office shorted you all in your request. You're clearly getting very high marks around the community for your partnership and the work you've done over the last year, and I commend you. In terms of the work you've been doing in trying to keep young people out of court, over the years you've talked a lot about status offenders. Is the work in keeping status offenders out of the court reflected in your actions that you've taken in the last year?
It is in 2 different ways. Well, one way is reflected clearly by our new assessment team. And with that assessment team and the status offenders, it gives us an opportunity to work with them earlier and often to figure out exactly what it is that their needs are. What specifically is not reflected in the budget and not reflected in the paper that we have is our initiative of working with, if you hadn't asked me, I would have told you their name. We're working with an agency, Hope for Justice, and their goal is to work with young folks who are victims of sex trafficking. And we've been partnering with them. We helped them to pass a legislature that would allow any status offender or anybody that the police believe is a victim of sex trafficking or runaway go to an assessment center, which I would have called the truck stop. They have decided they would like to name it the Bridge, and I'm happy with that. But the status offenders would be, instead of being brought to our detention facility, they would be taken to this assessment center. We would partner with them on doing the assessments that we're doing now of all of the status offenders that are brought to that center and making sure that before they're going home or before they're released, that they have the proper services that they have.
And that center is separate from the attendance truancy center.
Correct. It would be separate from, as it is right now, from the truancy center. In a pipe dream, of course, within the next 8 years, I would love to have one center that would cover all of that, that would include the Metro Student Attendance Center as well as any other status offenses.
The attendance truancy center has worked very well. It is actually one of Mayor Dean's better ideas, and in conjunction with the then juvenile court, and clearly it has been very successful. My sense is that adding a magistrate to it that works with it regularly will make it more successful and get services to families and kids that need it. My suspicion is we're minutes away from hearing a request to aid that, and you might speak to it because the clerk needs all the help he can get to make his case up here. What kind of support does the position need to make it work?
Absolutely. We would definitely need support from the clerk's office by adding a clerk to help support that docket. We already have community court dockets that happen in the evening, but we're only able to do it on a limited basis because the magistrate that handles it now, as well as the clerk that follows that magistrate, have regular day dockets. And so, normally the community courts are held on Thursday evenings, and they go anywhere from 5 o'clock to 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so the current magistrate and the current clerk that have been handling that have to come back to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and start a total different docket again. By designating one magistrate to do all of the community courts and all of the truancy and educational neglect dockets, we can have more community courts and we can do them more frequently and more often. But we would have to have a dedicated staff to do that. I don't think that our clerk currently has enough staff that they could pull someone to actually be dedicated to that magistrate without having an additional body. I would definitely support that.
My final question is just so that everyone understands the impact that the attendancy truancy center has on a young person. I mean, just let us know the impact of that, because obviously well, I'll let you do it.
Absolutely. The impact is very great. If we can engage a child and make sure that they are going to school on a regular basis, make sure that they're engaged in school, the likelihood that they will be further involved in the criminal system is reduced. The school system can give you all kind of statistics that say if the more that they are truant, the lower their testing abilities are, the more likely they are to commit crimes and to be a part of the criminal justice system. I think the number that they last showed at our last passage meeting, which is the Positive and Safe Schools and Initiative, Achieving Greater Equity Initiative, was about 70% chance of going into the criminal justice system if you are habitually truant. And so it is so important for us to be active and able to intervene early with these children to make sure that they are staying in school and that they are becoming involved. There's a guarantee that if we do it early and often, that there's no need to fund any more DAs or public defenders or criminal courts, because we'll be taking care of it through juvenile court. And so if we put the money through this Metro Student Attendance Center, if we're doing more on the educational neglect, which is, we've already spoken with Tony Majors and their department within the school system about having more community courts for elementary school, which is a push of something that they haven't done before. It's something that we know that if we start off with the parents, because we know and you're in elementary school from kindergarten to 4th grade, the child can't get themselves to school. It's got to be the parent. And so if we start requiring them to inform us early and often about why you are not taking your child to school, and explaining to them about how important it is and how it makes a true difference in that child's life, we make a lifelong difference for not only that child, that family, but for our community. And that's what we have to do.
Council A. Langster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Judge Calloway.
Good to see you too.
I wanted to ask you, compared to what you've seen as to what your predecessor had to deal with, do we still have juveniles who are sentenced as an adult rather than as a child? And transferred to criminal court?
We do have some that are still committing crimes that make them eligible to be tried as an adult. We have a wonderful district attorney that works down in our court and is being very good about vetting out which cases really they believe cannot be rehabilitated in the juvenile system, and making sure that they're not just wholeheartedly trying to send a whole lot of them. We are also, have to give a shout out to Darren Hall and his staff, and we're working with them as well, the sheriff's office, that if we are to transfer students or children over to the adult system, that we would agree to house them in the detention center until they are adjudicated as an adult, so that they can still get the same services, that they can still be treated as a juvenile up until that point where they may be tried. The numbers that we have transferred to the adult system have decreased, and we're working hard to make sure that if we're doing all the intervention early, then we will not have as many transferred to the adult system.
I see. I understand perfectly. Would you also tell me, the mayor is big on diversity in departments here in Metro government, in which we really love to see a lot of diversity. Could you explain to me how many attorneys do you presently have and the makeup of the attorneys, please? What race are they? What gender are they?
So we have, of course, I'm the judge and I'm a black female. We have 7 magistrates that work under me. Of them, we have 2 black males, we have 2 white women, and we have 3 white men. As a staff of probation officers and office report, we're about, I think I served on the diversity committee that the mayor had, and I believe our numbers were about 45, 50% of black, white. We are lacking in Hispanic. We have only 2 Hispanic employees currently. We definitely would be, as civil service rules allow us, and we would definitely look for more diversity in that area.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
And my last question is, students who are in law school, who are about to finish, they're entering their 3rd year, do you ever use them as interns, and are they paid? Thank you.
We do use them as interns. We love to have interns. We also have college interns that work with our probation staff as well. And we have our STAR team, our statistics training analysis resources team are dedicated to making sure that all the interns that come in have a good, robust experience and that they see all parts of the court. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get within the budget money to pay our interns, and that may be something that we can ask for next year, and maybe you would consider supporting that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Glover?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's safe to say that the actions you've taken, along with the truancy center, is obviously paying off. If you look at metro schools, their truancy, their numbers have decreased drastically. Not only the truancy number, but the discipline issue or discipline numbers as well. So I think it all fits together and it ties. As we look at your expenditures, it's decreased roughly $700,000 over the last couple of years. In looking at the way that you're trying to mainline and do some of the programs, do you feel like you can continue this trend, or do you think you've kind of bottomed out? And let me make sure I phrase this correctly. Bottomed out on the dollars that you're being cut in order to perform and to continue providing the services? Because I'm a firm believer that if you get the child off the street and in the classroom, we obviously have a much better chance of that child becoming a productive citizen for us. But there reaches a point of diminishing returns. And so how close are we? I mean, I listened to the additional request. I think it was about $84,000 that you'd said on the wish list, if I heard your numbers correctly. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna repeat them to make sure I wrote them down right. It was $20,000 for mileage. It was $10,000 for the drug screening, $10,000 internal, and then interpreter, excuse me, and then $54,000 for witness coordinator.
Correct.
Okay, all right. That being said, what other things do you feel like you can do to help streamline the budget going forward?
We definitely could use more personnel for our assessment team and our SIA, support and intervention and accountability team. I strongly believe the more people you have working with the children and family, the better off we are. We currently have vacancies that we're working with the OMB office to make sure we're going to fill them and make sure that we're providing those services. But the more we could have in those services, I think the better off we would be. We only have one IT personnel currently, and he serves 105 people. We have about 40% of our staff that is out in the community already in their offices. And so if a computer breaks down in one of our offices in the Sam Levy projects, he has to leave the building, go out to do the work and the help out there. He's definitely a great worker, doesn't complain at all, overworked. And if we had additional support to help him, that would be great too. But I would love to say that we have bottomed out. We can do it, and if we had to in the future cut, we probably could. But if we want to continue to make good services and rise it to great services for our youth and our family, which I think has to be paramount in what we as a city do, then we have to make sure that we are adequately funding what we can do. We could do so much more if we had more bodies.
Okay, and then one final question, and this does, I think, Mr. Chair, relate to budget, and that's your personnel manual. I haven't read yours, but the one question I asked before, would you commit to to actually aligning your personnel manual, time off, et cetera, the way it fits with other metro departments? Is that something you would be willing to entertain going forward?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We wouldn't have any question doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. Judge Callaway, I certainly enjoyed serving with you on the Diversity Advisory Panel. We've really gotten to know each other well, and I appreciate the time that you took.
Thank you.
I have one question. We're talking about new fees and new not fees, but new needs and new expenditures. Is there an opportunity to look at generating new fees? I know in general sessions, for example, we have a new litigation tax. Is there something that we could do to generate some of the monies to help offset these important expenses that we need to look at incurring?
As a court, we don't collect any of the fees or the fines. That goes to the clerk's office. there's only a very small amount of money that we collect on a certain very small amount of cases. So all of would not be an ability for us to collect or, charge anything extra. That would just turn over to the clerk's department. And we go to the
But
clerk.
would there be another general category that we could look at in terms of potentially charging a fee that would be turned over that could go into the fund to help offset some of these charges, expenses?
We definitely could probably look into that and see if there's something that we could do. I will also say I think it's very similar to what the clerk Gentry said when he was here, that the majority of the people that come through our system are in poverty. And so generating an extra fee may not actually generate much for the court regardless. What we have done, or what I have done, is we have a position of a grant person, and she is actively looking for grant money to help fund some of these positions and some of these things that we're doing. And I believe that there's money, a lot of federal money grants that we could tap into that would help us to do some of the things that we would like to do. So we're definitely actively looking into those kind of things.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Tiger.
Thank you, Judge. Two quick questions. We talked about adding a magistrate. Where do the magistrates fall in your employee chart? I guess the magistrates fall on the...
Yeah. It's actually, if you look at E26-7.
Yes, ma'am.
They're actually juvenile court referees still under the Metro guideline, but their title name is magistrate, but it's still listed as
So
juvenile
they're
court
the
referee.
referees, but it looks like it's 6 across the board. Where's the 7th one, or the one you're adding?
It has not been added in there as of yet. We sent that to a plan with the vacancies that we have to the finance department, and we're working on approval for that.
But it's not budgeted? Talia, can you help me with that?
She's looking at an overall reorganization for her department. So when the overall plan is approved and kind of signed off on, then many of these positions that are listed in here will be reallocated to different classes. So that one has not yet been reallocated until we...
Oh, so you tricked us with the wrong page then, basically.
No, the plan has not yet been
Okay.
approved, right, Judge?
So is there a
It's,
tentative plan that we could review?
The judge has that.
We do have that tentative plan. We
Okay,
could
that might,
definitely
if
send
you
that
get
to
that to
you.
Ms. Waller, that might be helpful.
We could definitely send that to you.
And then one final question, one page over on 26.6, there is a negative professional and purchase service category of $1,400. So anytime I see a negative expense, I'm curious as to what generated that.
Professional, I see what you're looking at. I am actually not sure what that is. I can definitely maybe ask Ms. Talia for some assistance on that as well.
We'll get somebody to pull it up in the back.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge Callaway, there are no other council people in the queue, so I want to thank you for your presentation. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for your time.